Well, welcome to the Get Fit with Jodelle podcast. I am, as usual, Jodelle, and it's so wonderful to be talking today to someone who embodies, and you'll be able to see why I say that, the idea of anti-aging or positively aging. Like a fine wine, we get better with age, and today I've brought on the world-renowned expert of anti-aging medicine so that he can show us just how we can positively age and get better rather than getting worse. Dr. Frank Shallenberger has been practicing medicine since 1973 and has been a pioneer in alternative and integrative medicine since 1978. So this is really cool. So Dr. Shallenberger promotes anti-aging and preventative medicine and has developed numerous protocols to slow down and even reverse many issues using natural treatments along with conventional medicine. And he's authored several books, one of which I have right here, The Ozone Miracle. So I'm excited to talk to him about that. And you can see it's been well worn. I've read through it several times. As well as several other books and clinical papers, scientific papers. And so talking to this guy is going to be such a treat for my brain to just download all his brain with this vast array of knowledge on what I call positive aging or anti-aging medicine. So Dr. Shallenberger, welcome. So I brought you on because I want to talk about ozone therapy, since you are called the father of ozone therapy. So tell us in layman's terms, can you explain ozone therapy and why it's so maybe beneficial, but also why it's controversial and why it shouldn't be?
Well, okay, so let's start off with the scientific stuff. And those are both two really good points. First of all, the listeners want to know that the science behind ozone has been around for 130 years. Mm-hmm. We're not talking something that was just like newly discovered 5 years ago, or, it's a multi-level marketing thing. This is some actual science with literally thousands of clinical and scientific papers on it that have been produced literally ever since the 1850s. So we're talking about something extremely substantial, well-documented, works great. I'll talk a little bit about the controversy. So somebody hearing that saying, well, why have I never heard of this then? It's so darn good. So that I have an answer for that. So we'll get to that. But what people want to understand is basically ozone is pure oxygen. Now, at least the way we use it. When it's in pollution, that's different. But we make it from pure oxygen. We make it right in the doctor's office. We've got a tank of oxygen. We run that oxygen through a converter box. And what oxygen is it's two oxygen atoms sharing electrons. They're in close proximity to each other, and they're sharing these electrons. That's because a single oxygen atom doesn't have enough electrons, and the universe won't allow that to exist. Mm-hmm. So you got to have an equal balance of electrons. So what the single one does is it comes up to another single one. They get together, they get married, they share electrons. Everybody's happy for the rest of their life. And then along comes ozone. So what ozone is we pump that O2 molecule through this converter box. The converter box breaks the O2s up into O1s. And of course, like I just said, that can't hardly exist in nature. So within billions of seconds, the O1s go back into O2s again. But a portion of them, actually a pretty small portion, about 1 in every 50 molecules, it goes back to O3. So now you've got 3 oxygen atoms sharing the amount of electrons that make 2 oxygen atoms stable. And that makes this a very unstable molecule. It's 3 oxygen atoms. That's an unstable molecule. That's what ozone is. It's 3 oxygen atoms. It's so unstable, we got to make it up right now and use it right now. I mean, I can't make it up and then come back like a half an hour from now and make it up because it'll turn back into oxygen. Yeah. So its instability is what makes it remarkable. Because if I just take ozone, if I just take pure oxygen, and treat people with that, nothing much happens. But when I take ozone and I treat people with that, because it needs that electron, it instantaneously, within millions of seconds, starts electron movement as soon as I put it someplace. And electron movement is what keeps us alive, it's what keeps us young, and it's what literally powers every single aspect of the human experience. is electron movement. So you're looking at the very beginning of the whole thing. I like people to kind of think about a clock with a pendulum on it, and it's not moving. And when you start getting electron movement, it's like pushing that pendulum. Without that electron movement, nothing goes. And the problem with people is, as they get sick, it's just vulnerable to illness, vulnerable to the whole aging process. And so that's why ozone's so awesome, because it comes in and actually corrects the problem that made us vulnerable in the first place.
Yeah, and what I had appreciated about ozone is that it is a natural thing. Like, it's that smell that you smell after a thunderstorm. And so the earth actually has a way of creating ozone to kill viruses, to kill bacteria, to kill pathogens and things like that. And so, talk about the benefits of now when we're doing this pure ozone, what it can do inside of our body. Like, what is ozone targeting?
No, ozone's a gas. It's not a liquid. I could put it in a bladder. I can put it in a stomach. I can put it in soft tissue someplace. I can put it in an area that hurts. So there's lots of ways to get ozone into the body, and depending on where you put it, that's where it's going to start working. The most common way is with blood. So we'll take blood and we'll treat the blood with ozone. The ozone will instantly change that blood, get electrons moving around in that blood. Then we hang the blood back up, run it right back into the patient, and that blood circulates everywhere and transfers this electron movement to the entire rest of the body.
And so you've seen in your practice, I'm assuming doing this for as long as you have, so many issues resolved with ozone. Can you talk about some of those things that you've seen be a big game changer with ozone?
Yes. So in essence, and I tell doctors this all the time, I said, whatever you're doing with your patients, it doesn't matter if you're an acupuncturist or cardiologist or whatever you're doing with your patients, if you add ozone into this, you're going to get much better results. And I say that specifically because for the most part, there's a few examples where this is not true, but for the most part, ozone works with something else. It makes the other things work better. It doesn't necessarily do it all itself. And I like people to maybe think about just exercise. If you exercise and you're in really top shape, whatever goes wrong with you, it's going to be a whole lot easier for you to get well than if you're in lousy shape. And yet exercise itself isn't necessarily going to cure anything.
Right.
But it strengthens you up. And since the bottom line reason people get sick in the first place is lack of electron movement, we're actually treating the core problem that people have, no matter what illness they have. So ideally, every doctor should know how to use ozone, no matter what their specialty is, no matter what kind of medicine they practice, and just add it to what they do. It will instantly make everything go better. So we use it all kinds of cases, from cancer to heart disease to macular degeneration to osteoarthritis to mold problems to chronic infections. It's incredible the applications that you can use this on.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get into the mold thing you mentioned, since I've been healing from that. But you talk about in your book even helping with the neurological disorders like Parkinson's. And so is that something that's becoming more prevalent for that sort of treatment program?
Well, once again, I don't want people with Parkinson's to think they're going to go get some ozone treatments and they're going to have Parkinson's anymore. They're going to need treatment for their disorder. Parkinson's would be a good example, actually, because you're going to need treatments for the disorder. And as we all know, those treatments are somewhat limited. They don't do as good a job as you really like them to do. If you add ozone in there, you're going to get a much better response. And so we have great stories about patients with Parkinson's or dementia or just chronically fatigued. Most of our cases are going to be cases of sort of undiagnosed illness, where people are chronically ill from something. Could be mold, could be Lyme, could be whatever. Nobody actually sort of really knows. All they know is the patient's sick and miserable. I get a lot of those type of patients. Nobody knows what to do with them. And
Mm.
to a large extent, the reason that their doctors are not able to help them is because their doctors aren't dealing with the electron issue. You
Yeah.
got to deal with that issue, or that's how your body gets well. It takes electron movement to stay well. It takes more electron efficiency to get well. And you can get stuck in this hole where, because your electron movement was already suppressed, you got sick. Now you're sick. Now it's worse. How the heck are you going to get well until you fix that?
And so in your book, you talk about like why we need it now more than ever. So in terms of like everyone in general, do you think that each body, even if they're not fighting something chronic, would benefit from ozone treatment of some sort?
Well, of course, and that reminds me, I never actually mentioned, why was it everybody doesn't do this? If it's so darn
Okay.
great, why isn't everybody in the whole world doing this?
Okay.
So that deserves a really good answer. First of all, the first part of it is a lot of people are. Okay, not so much in the United States. I'll give you that. In the United States, we maybe have 3,000 doctors using ozone therapy. In the scale of things here, that's not that many. But in other areas of the world, particularly in Europe and in the Mideast, ozone is just used all the time. And the reason it's not used here is, it's a sad reason. The reason it's not used here is it doesn't generate income. It's not an income generator. So I can take a patient that has any viral disease in the world, I don't care, any acute flu of anything, and cure them in 2 days with ozone therapy. Wow. This is being done in Italy, and published studies on this, and it's being done in China, all over the place. But it's not being done here in the U.S. Because they won't approve it. But they will approve a $4,000 dose of remdesivir. They'll approve that. But they will not approve a $130 dose of ozone therapy. It just doesn't make any money. And the sad state of affairs is, in our medical system, is really built around money.
Yeah.
And so you got to kind of go outside the standard system. It's not likely they'll be doing it for a long time, until maybe the people just flat out demand it.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, because myself, experiencing ozone for the first time as part of my mold treatment was a big needle mover for me. Like, I immediately after the first round was like, this did something. It killed, that's what I wanted to ask you is, does it validly kill those mold spores? Because that's what I felt like had happened. I had felt like there was a huge die off of mold spores after my first IV treatment. And I felt worse for a day, and then I got better. And then the next few times I did the ozone, it was like my body just flourished after that. So it was like I definitely cleaned house with something. So, talk about the fact of how it does affect something like a mold.
Well, okay, so here you have a person, and they're exposed to mold, and they get sick. Then you got another person that's living with them, exposed to the exact same mold, and they don't get sick.
Precisely.
So let's understand from the get-go, for the most part, I know there's certain environmental issues we have to attend to, but for the most part, the reason we get sick is not so much because there's something out there going to jump on us and get us, but because when that thing out there jumps on and gets us, somehow we don't have the wherewithal to defend ourselves. Now, why that would be is always a combination between environment, how we live, and genetics. So we know that there's a subset of people that are going to be have problems with mold. That's just the way it rolls. And other people not. And that very much may have some genetic issues to it, could have some lifestyle issues to it as well. But the point is that the reason somebody is going to have such a tough time with mold. So for example, I'm imagining you got the mold, and you know about the mold, and you go and you start some of the detoxifying treatments and maybe some of the antifungal treatments and all that kind of stuff. And you're sort of kind of getting better, but you're not crossing the finish line quite. And the reason that you didn't quite cross the finish line until you got ozone is because ozone stimulated something that was lacking in you that nobody else was paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was that something? Here's the cool part. I have no idea what it was. Our bodies were designed to heal themselves. All I know is when I put ozone there, they do a much better job at that. I'm not sure what those darn electrons are doing, but they're stimulating something that was not getting stimulated in that patient. I don't want the listeners to think we don't know a lot about the science of what it does, because we do. But the reality is, why it makes this person better and they have such a fabulous result. The answer is, honestly, I'm not quite sure. But it does have a lot of marvelous physiological effects on the immune system, well documented, on the circulation system, well documented, on the detoxification systems, well documented, on the mitochondrial system, our energy generated.
Yeah.
All this stuff is well documented, so we know it does a lot of stuff. So we're not going to get too shocked when somebody gets better, because we can see all the things that it can do.
Yeah. And I appreciate your honesty, because it's so true. Like, maybe we don't know all the facets, but I'm of the same mindset as when you give the body the proper conditions, it will heal. But part of that is finding those natural, optimal conditions that help heal. So, you mentioned the fact that you take the blood out and then you ozonate it and put it back in. So that's one form. What are some other forms of ozone therapy that are available, even down to something, I've got over in my water bottle here, here's some ozone water. So, talk about the different forms of ozone treatment that there is.
All right, very good question. So it's a gas, and so you can inject it in pretty much any part of the body. Here's where I have not injected ozone. I haven't actually stuck it in anybody's eyeball.
Okay.
I haven't stuck it in anybody's brain. And I haven't stuck it in anybody's internal organ, like a heart or a liver or anything like that. Every other place on the body has been fair game. So I put it in intestines, put it in stomachs. I can inject it in soft tissues. I can go into gums. I can go into joints around the mouth. I can go into the spine. I can go into the lower back. I can go into all the joints in the body. I can go into the bladder. I can go into the vagina. I can go into the pelvic cavities. I can go into the peritoneal or the abdominal type cavities. I can go into any soft tissue there is. So I can inject it in all those places. I can do kind of like what you're doing, and that is you take water and you bubble ozone through it. And what will happen is the gas gets trapped in that water. Very similar to the way CO2, which is a gas, gets trapped in a soda pop. Same idea. And so when you bubble the ozone through, if you drink the water right away, you're actually drinking gas. So that's one way to get it in. Another way, and that's a great way for the stomach and the liver, because it's going straight to the stomach and the liver. Another way would be to give it in the rectum as you would an enema or a suppository. So in medicine, we use a lot of suppositories. We can give medicine through the rectum because it gets absorbed immediately. So you can put it in that way. You can apply it directly to the skin. So if you've got a rash or a skin bite or even a snake bite or whatever you might have on your skin, you can take the gas, and there are many different ways, but you can expose certain areas or even the entire body to the ozone on the skin, and it will get absorbed through the skin. Because it comes into contact with the skin cells and immediately starts pushing electrons around. And that gets conveyed. It's like a domino. As soon as you start taking electrons over here and start making them move, they start moving electrons all the way in the other side of the body, almost instantaneously. So you can't put it through the skin. You can take ozone drops, put it in the eye. We will inject the teeth. We inject sinuses with it. Ears, if you got ear problems. It's pretty much incredible. Just the only thing I haven't done is eyeballs and brains. And it's important.
So then that begs the question then, is there a way, let's say somebody does need to treat their eyes, like part of my biggest symptom with my mold was I developed these red, puffy, irritated eyes. So is there a safe way to apply the gas in some manner, blowing it on the eyes or applying some sort of ozone water drops?
Yeah, so the water drops are great.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite as convenient as the gas, but it's a darn sight less irritating. So I
Mm-hmm.
would recommend that. But so if my patients need to do something, I'll give them like a 5 cc syringe, and I'll tell them to put about a cc of normal saline in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's salt water that's suitable for the eyes.
Right.
And then I'll tell them to fill the rest of the syringe up with ozone gas,
Mm-hmm.
and then just shake for maybe 20, 30 minutes. And the gas will get trapped. A lot of the gas will get trapped in that water. They can then shoot those drops in the eye. You got to do it kind of right away, because remember, the longer the ozone's in there, the more quickly it's going to turn back into oxygen.
Right.
You have that electron type. But you got to use them right away. But it's really amazingly refreshing. Good for all kinds of dry eye, infection, inflammation types of conditions.
And you were saying all these different body areas that you had injected ozone. Are you talking just a direct injection of the gas, right? Just you're taking a syringe and you're injecting it right in there. So something like with rheumatoid arthritis, would they see a difference with that?
That was actually my very first case. I
Okay.
learned how to do this by going to Germany back in the 80s. And one of the things they mentioned was rheumatoid arthritis. And at that time, by the way, ozone kills germs. I don't think I said that, but it kills germs. But in order for it to kill germs, you got to get it on direct contact with the germ. So you got to be able to get that gas exactly where the germ is. And a lot of rheumatoids have bad infections in their joints, and that's why they've got the rheumatoid. It could be mycoplasma is the one that's most commonly referred to, but it could also be strep, but it could be something called Neisseria. There's different bacteria that can grow in these joints. So anyhow, the Germans told me, hey, just shoot some gas into the knee and you'll kill all the bacteria and you should cure them up. So sure enough, after I got back from Germany, who shows up on my doorstep but some lady with really bad rheumatoid. And so I just shot her knees up, and the next thing you know, I'm seeing like just about everybody on her street with bad knees. They didn't have rheumatoid at all, but you know, the word got around pretty quickly that wow, she could hardly walk, and now 24 hours later, she's out walking around like there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, and I love that story because I heard you say that before, and one of her neighbors had osteoarthritis and had come and you said, you know, what have you got to lose? You're already like almost not walking. Let's just try it and see what happens. And she got better as well. So it was like there is so much to this. And so now that people are kind of thinking about it, what can somebody expect from a treatment? Like, what are they going to feel? Are they going to feel anything? Or is it going to hurt? You know, what can they expect afterwards?
Yeah. Well, depending on the treatment. So if it's a systemic treatment, like you were getting, you know, or where we're treating the blood, or we're trying to treat the whole body, the probably only 5% of people are going to immediately notice something from that.
Okay.
It's a cumulative type of thing.
Correct.
So in that way, I like to tell people it's very similar to exercise. So we know exercise is going to make you strong and make you wonderful, and everything's going to work great. But you don't just go from lousy shape to great shape overnight. You got to start and gradually, and it's over time it starts doing its wonders. Systemic ozone therapy is like that. You more or less start off easy, and you're training the patient to tolerate it better, and you're moving things up. So that takes more time. The other things, like if I'm injecting it into a knee or into a body cavity or something like that, it might work instantaneously. Okay. So you might see something just immediately.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the cumulative because like when I first had mine was an IV, but it was just directly the gas going in. It wasn't the blood pulling out and going back in. And so, you know, the next day I'm like, okay, I'm fine. And I slept a little better that night. Then the day after that was when I hit the wall. Like I had to take a day and just relax and not do anything because my body had experienced a die-off. And so it was cumulative. It didn't happen all at once. And so I think people can be prepared for that. And then after that, the subsequent treatments, I flourished. It was almost as if I got better with each treatment. I got more energy with each treatment. My body responded better with each treatment. I was able to do more of the ozone with each treatment. So to that effect, though, what is a typical, protocol for ozone? And I think I know what your answer is going to be, but also like how long, how much is the frequency? What is the protocol for starting an ozone therapy treatment?
In general, and you know that everybody's different, so you got to come up with the recipe that's right for that person.
Right.
But in general, this is a pretty safe statement to make. If you've got a chronic condition that's been going on for a while, that person we're going to probably want to start off lower doses more frequently.
Okay.
And that may be twice a week,
Mm-hmm.
to give you an idea.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got an acute problem, like for example, you're suddenly coming down with a bad case of the flu, that's going to require high doses, bang, a whole bunch of them right now. So, and it will work right away too. Mm-hmm. So it varies just depending on, how long the patient's been sick and, what kind of illness they have. Typically speaking, once or twice a week for most cases.
Okay. Awesome. And then, so they've done that once or twice a week. And then how long are they doing that? Is that, 10 weeks? Is that 6 weeks? What does that look like in your opinion?
Yeah, I would say that once you've had something like 12 to 14 treatments, okay, you're going to be seeing some.
Okay.
That's enough to see some.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And then as far as like someone that is wanting to know, am I better? Like, is my, perhaps it's Lyme and they're thinking, how do I know when I'm better? Obviously the symptoms are going to be a lot less, but how do they know when they can titrate down? And would that look like once a month? Would that look like every other month? And maybe to that effect, you're probably a pretty healthy guy. Maybe you have a regimen of just maintenance ozone. What would that look like?
Well, for me, I do ozone treatments all the time.
Do you?
And in a way, it's sort of obvious. I mean, I've got the equipment there. What the heck?
Right. Yeah.
I got the nurses and the equipment, the whole thing. I might as well just do it. So yeah, sure. I do give myself a pretty good treatment, like once a week as a rule. I don't know that that's practical for everybody, but if everybody could, it'd be wonderful.
Okay.
I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
But like that book you were just showing, The Ozone Miracle, mm-hmm. That I wrote that specifically because at some point I started to realize, what, this stuff is just way too good for just doctors to have. Mm-hmm. People ought to be doing this at home. They could probably fix most of what's going on with them. They just added ozone to it. And I'm thinking about some guy out there that's say he's got a heart problem, and he says cardiologist, and the cardiologist is doing this, and this. That guy would do so much better if he just got a copy of the book, got the ozone machine, and started giving it at home. So I really like the concept of doing that and adding that in.
And so you recommend people can actually do this at home, like you work alongside a company that offers these ozone machines. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yes. So I wrote the book. It's called The Ozone Miracle.
Here it is.
There it is. It's basically it's designed for lay people. Yes. In the first part of the book, I give them sort of an education about what ozone does and how it works and blah blah blah. But after that, it's sort of an indications thing. You just look it up. If you got a sinus issue, you got a flu, you got a cancer, or whatever it is, you can look it up in there, and it'll give you some ideas of how to self-administer to yourself. Mm-hmm. And I don't expect that people are gonna, just doctor themselves. You got to be seeing a doctor. But again, whatever that doctor's doing, there's no contraindication to adding this in there. It doesn't get in the way of literally anything, any more than breathing does. Mm-hmm. So people can just absolutely follow that book, and whatever their doctors are giving them, they can add that in, and the results are going to be just a lot better.
Well, and absolutely, they can follow the book because, like you said, it is a simple read. You've made it to where if I want to look something up, I can easily find it. It's not a real thick book, too, so you can easily get to the point and find out what it is your treatment would look like, and what your options are. And you even give resources in the back. So I think it's great. And I was mentioning how, I had that down day where I was down after I got my first treatment, and that's called, that Herxheimer reaction. Can you talk about like that a little bit with ozone? Do you see that a lot, or is that not something you see frequently?
You can see it, and it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
What I like to remind my patients is that, in general, if you get a natural treatment, so it's not the same. So if you take a medicine and you have a bad reaction, normally the doctor's going to say, "Oh yeah, you can't take that medicine."
Mm-hmm.
But with natural things, that's not quite the case. If you take a natural therapy and you have a bad reaction, that typically means two things. Number one, that was a really good therapy for you,
Yeah.
but you got a little too much of it.
Right. Yeah.
So, so every now and then, if I misjudge and I give a patient more than I probably ought to, they're going to have a reaction like that. And I try to remind them, said, "I'm sorry, I just gave you a little too much, but the reality is you're going to get over it. You're going to come out of it better anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And next time I'm going to adjust the dosage better so you don't have to go through that again." It doesn't happen too often, but it can happen.
What about with thyroid issues? Because like part of, someone who's attacked with like a mold toxicity is that really tanks their thyroid. And mine had that happen as well. And does ozone help with thyroid issues? Have you seen that?
Yeah, so thyroid is so central to electron movement that it's just incredible. So if I'm going to put ozone into a patient and it's not working so well,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I better start thinking about is what's the condition of their thyroid.
Okay.
Because if the thyroid isn't there, it's probably not going to work so well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the problems that we do see today is that doctors, all of us have been trained in medical school to determine thyroid function based upon blood tests.
Mm-hmm.
And what I can absolutely tell all the listeners is those blood tests are going to miss about 90% of our patients who don't have optimal thyroid function. They are not sensitive enough to discover an abnormal thyroid function, except if it's like so bad the patient ought to be in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Then they can discover it. But by and
Right.
large, they got missed an awful lot of thyroid dysfunctions. And if they do, and they get the ozone and it's not really working as advertised, that could be a problem, because the thyroid is so central to electron movement.
That's good to know. So if somebody does have kind of a negative reaction or just not a reaction, nothing happens, that is good for them to go, maybe I need to look at my thyroid a little bit more. So what are your thoughts on like the how it affects weight loss? Have you seen anybody do ozone and then their body actually responds better to weight loss?
I can't say I have any examples of that. I just never really got into weight loss per se, And I don't recall that there are any published studies on weight loss.
Okay.
It is a metabolic stimulant. Similar, it's another little phrase I like to tell people. It's basically exercise in a bottle.
Okay, good.
It has the same effect on your system with this electron movement that exercise would have.
Mm-hmm.
So to that extent, yeah, it could be very helpful if somebody's on a weight loss program and they're doing whatever they need to do for their particular case to get their weight into better control, guarantee you they will have better results if they add some ozone therapy in there. But all by itself, I'm not looking at it as something that's going to make you lose weight.
Mm-hmm. And so in your opinion, where does someone start? Like if people are listening to this, where are they going to start with their, okay, I'm really interested in ozone, like where do I start?
Good.
Other than ordering your book.
There's two resources that you can go to.
Okay.
There are two websites primarily. One is called is Oxygen Healing Therapies. Therapies will be plural. So oxygenhealingtherapies.com. And that tells you a lot about ozone in there. And they do list a lot of doctors and tell about their training credentials and all that. The other one is the American Academy of Ozone Therapy. And we list doctors under there that have been, reached a certain training status in there. And that one is AAOT, American Academy of Ozone Therapy, and that's a .us.
Okay.
So both of those places will give people a way to find doctors that have been trained on how to do this properly.
Yeah, that's actually, that second website you mentioned was how I found somebody in my area. So yes, it's a great resource. And I'll put both of those links in the show notes for people too. So you being the kind of this anti-aging medicine expert, what are your other favorite ways to anti-age outside of ozone? What else you got?
Well, okay. So you know what? I'm going to just emphasize to the audience what I like to emphasize to my patients, and that is, you know what? This isn't a magic pill scenario. I'm not going to, Dr. Shallenberger is not going to come up with this bottle and say, oh yeah, this pill, just take this pill and it'll slow down the process dramatically. Yeah. And I say that pointedly because that's all you hear these days. Somebody's selling something that's supposed to slow down the aging process. It would be nice, but obviously it's just not that simple. But it's simple. It's just not that simple. It's kind of a lot of what your grandmother told you about how to take care of yourself. I wrote a book called Bursting with Energy, where I really go into this. And the central key to the aging process is your metabolism, how you process oxygen. And so that's the central key. So you want to get that one dialed in. You want to make sure you're processing oxygen and moving those electrons around very well, as that's your core. Now, how do you do that? Well, a lot of it's things people already know. You get enough sleep. You get enough rest. You also get enough stress. And by that, I mean like exercise. So you got to get enough stress. Then you got to combine that with enough rest. And that could be different for different people. You've got to get your nutrition obviously dialed in.
Yeah.
And it's not so easy because, person A might need 50 times more vitamin B6 than person B. So how the heck do you know that? So you might need a little bit of help for somebody to kind of help you out there. But you got your nutrition, you got your basic lifestyle stuff. How do you deal with stress? How much water do you drink? How many contaminants are in your environment? And then you got hormone replacement. And I would have to say these are the big issues. So you want to get your mitochondria dialed in. Yeah. That's the part with the electrons. So then you want to get your nutrition dialed in. You want to get your lifestyle dialed in. And even if you're under 50, you might be low on thyroid, for example. But get your hormones dialed in and replace them. And between all that, it sounds like it's a big deal, but it's not really. It's like a lot of things. Once you get it dialed into your life, you've incorporated it into your life. People like me and so many of my patients just consider perfectly normal to have a regular routine where we take really good care of ourselves.
Yeah. So then I have to pick your brain about your favorite ways to take care of yourself. Like, are there supplements that you daily are just enamored with? Like you just really know they're a needle mover?
Well, one that I know is great for me is something that I made up about 25 years ago. It's something that I call Quick Start. It's a detox powder combined with other elements. So I've got some immune stimulating herbs in there. I got some detoxifying herbs. I got your basic, vitamins and minerals and such like that in there. And you just take a scoop of that, throw it in the water. I know that's good for me because if I don't take that, I'm going to feel it within 5-6 days.
Okay.
So that one I know. I also like vitamin D as just a routine protector for virtually everybody. You can check your blood levels, but probably you need some. I like a little vitamin A, like throw that in there. Fish oil, I'm a big proponent of the EPAs and the DHAs that you can get in fish oil and other supplements too. And for me, I have to say the number one important thing is having a really good fitness program, a really good cardiovascular program that I will adhere to and is part of my routine, and I do not miss that. I got to do that. And I think that for me, and I can tell you that because I've been times where I got real lazy and didn't do that, and then other times when I does it, and it's night and day,
Yeah.
So I really promote that kind of aerobic fitness to people.
Yeah. Well, I love to hear that because you're talking to a fitness trainer here. So it's like that's how we get our fix. What is your favorite modality of exercise? What do you do daily?
Gosh, recently, now you know what the power plate is?
Yeah. The vibration plate.
Yeah, I love power plate. Yeah, it's a whole body vibration. It vibrates vertically. It's got some special technology in it, and you can set up the amplitude and the frequency and all that kind of stuff. But that thing is pretty darn remarkable. So I like that. And I've got the whole package. I got the rowing machine. I got the ski machine. So you don't get bored with one thing. You can move over to something else, try something else. And I like to do the cross training thing where I'll do one thing for a while and maybe do another thing for a while. Just keep it moving around. And then I test my fitness level 1 or 2 times a year just to make sure it's dialed in. And between all that, it's pretty easy. People should know, by the way, all we want to do is stay fit and healthy. I'm not trying to win a marathon.
No.
If I were trying to win a marathon, I'd be training 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to be a healthy guy that doesn't get sick and lives a long time, has a nice functional life. And I can do that in a half hour 3 times a week.
That's right.
I mean, you do not have to have this incredible exercise program that maybe some people are envisioning. You can do it very quickly. If you know what you're doing, you do it in a focused way.
Well, absolutely. Exercise is medicine too. And, I kind of coach people on why don't you exercise to the effect of what you're trying to do? Do you ride horses? Exercise for the muscles that benefit that. Do you love to run? Exercise, lift weights, cross train so that you can be a better runner. Maybe you love to sail. Well, what muscles are you going to need to go sailing? Support those things in life that you love versus just trying to, hit it hard every day and destroy your body, because you can do a lot of bad with exercise too. So as we wrap up here, I also wanted to ask you about, you have a nebulizing protocol, which I have started doing as well because of you. And I would love for you to inform my listeners on using a nebulizer and how that can benefit your body as well.
So nebulizers. Nebulizers are pieces of equipment that have been around the medical business for, I don't know, decades. And what they allow us to do is they allow us to take a liquid and put it in a tiny little form of tiny little bubbles that allows us to inhale the liquid. Normally, of course, you can't inhale a liquid. You cough and choke. But when you get it down into tiny little bubbles, you can inhale the liquid. So doctors use it for medicine. So if I want to deliver medicine to somebody's body, one way of doing it is to put it in a nebulizer and let them inhale it. And then they'll have that effect. It will get into their bloodstream and they'll have the whole effect. Well, knowing that, about 10, 12, 13 years ago or something, I was talking to a patient and she was telling me, I get so nervous every time I put the asthma medicine in my nebulizer. And I told her, well, yeah, that's because it's getting absorbed into your bloodstream. It's going to your heart, making your heart get real rapid. It's like caffeine that way. And after I finished talking to her, I realized, wait a second, that's a great way to get medicine into people's bodies that's natural too.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, what would be really good natural medicine to get into their bodies through the lungs? I thought about ozone, but ozone is somewhat toxic to the lungs. So I decided to stay away from it. some hydrogen peroxide, put it in the nebulizer, and have people just inhale that. So that's going to get them basically two benefits. One is they'll get the hydrogen peroxide into their bloodstream in a way that's similar to a systemic treatment of any kind of electron mover. So it's going to be good for them anyway. The other thing is, as it's going down through their nose and their back of their throat and down into their lungs, hydrogen peroxide kills things. So it kills toxins, it kills bacteria, it kills viruses. Seems like that would be a perfect way for somebody to treat a flu, for example. So that's what I've been doing ever since then. We should play it around with it, try to get the doses right, the concentrations right. And finally, we got it dialed in pretty good now. So now I just tell my patients, listen, you have to have a special solution of hydrogen peroxide, and you have to have a nebulizer, and just keep that in your house. And if you ever think you're coming down with a cold or flu or anything, just haul out that nebulizer in there and just breathe it once an hour. And while you're awake, you don't have to do it 24 hours a day, but just once an hour while you're awake. And after a few days, you'll see the cold will just go away. Do it in conjunction with all the other stuff you're doing. But throw that in there, and that's just a great way for problems.
Yeah. So what would be like, you have maybe a small nebulizer, what would be like your favorite recipe? Like what are they putting in there as far as like you mentioned there was a special hydrogen peroxide.
Yes, so there's a special solution. The nebulizers you can just buy online.
Right.
I like that they have these little portable ones.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
Battery operated or will connect. Yeah, connect up to your computer. They're really easy to do. They're cheap. They're like $30, $40, something like that. And just so easy to do, and they don't make a lot of noise like the old ones used to. And so you can just buy that online. And then you got to make up the solution, and that's a special type of solution. Let me just tell patients how to make it up a little bit. They can also call my office, and I'll mail it to them.
Okay.
But if you want to make it up yourself, what you do is you go online and you buy some what they call normal saline.
Right.
And then you buy 34% hydrogen peroxide. And you take 1 cc of 34% hydrogen peroxide and put it in 100 cc's in your nebulizer.
Yeah, it's a very small amount of fluid is all you really need. So yeah, I have really enjoyed hydrogen peroxide in mine anyway. I've seen a lot of good benefits just nasally from that as well. So you've been more than generous with your time. I want people to be able to find you. What would be the best resources for me to put in the show notes for people to find you and follow you? You have a really great newsletter I think everybody should sign up for too. So can you tell us about that?
Second Opinion. One thing that people tell me they like a lot about it is the same thing I like a lot about it, and that is I reference everything. I don't just find stuff online and just start printing it. So everything's fully referenced from scientific journals, either that or it's personal experience that I've seen right in the office. So it offers an awful lot of good alternatives to people. I just try and keep people up to date with that newsletter. So that they can take care of themselves at home. Because I want all the listeners to understand, do not depend on the medical system to take care of you. That's not what it's designed for. It's designed to put you together after you break yourself. Stay well so you don't ideally you should never need the medical system. That would be the goal we're going for, okay? But so I try to put things in that Second Opinion newsletter that will help people take better control of their health and their bodies and such, so they just don't get sick and they get better faster. It's called Second Opinion Newsletter. So you could just go online, Google Dr. Shallenberger's Second Opinion Newsletter. You'll find out how to get it. The other thing I would mention to you is if you want to get to my website's really easy to remember. It's antiagingmedicine.com. antiagingmedicine.com. And there's a lot of info on there, a lot of videos on there and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So I'll put all that in the show notes too. And thank you so much. We had Such a great conversation. I hope we can do this again sometime because I can see that you're a wealth of knowledge that we can all very much learn from and embody what you do as well. So,
Yeah, anytime, Jodelle, and I think this internet connection of mine here, there's a lot of wind out here. I think it's been not so good. I don't know if it's me or it's you, but anyway, yeah. So anytime, we're
okay.
always glad to get the information. That's my passion.
Awesome.
Nice
You
talking
too.
to you.
You
Anytime.
too. Thank you so much. I'm like a librarian. Come into my library. Don't mind the excessive blue light because I have blue blockers for you. Oh, there's some sort of schmutz on this one. So, with so many options on the Swanwick website, I thought I'd show you some of the different fits and show you just how cool blocking blue light can be and stylish at the same time. My favorite are actually the cat eyes, so I like those the best. It's like I could go to a sock hop. Do monkey. So it's cool. You can actually be stylish and be blocking the blue light at the same time with Swanwick sleep glasses, or Swannies as they're called. Now, not just for adults, okay? So here I have my daughter's little blue blockers. Obviously they're gonna be a little small on me. In case you want them in blue or pink. They also have pink on the website. She likes her purple ones, so I think if I really wanted to, whoops, I dropped that one. If I really wanted to get the benefit of blocking as much blue light as possible, I could simply, okay, I think that's really gonna do it as far as, yeah, okay. So there you have options. Now these here, these are the fit overs that fit over, like when I wear my glasses, I'll put these on and they fit over. So for people that wear glasses, there's that option. Then for people that are looking for daylight blocking, we have the day blockers in the black, but if you don't want the black, then you have the two-tone. So there's those. Can you tell I have a little bit of an addiction to blue blockers? So while I was making the video, I forgot I had these too. So these are kind of like the clear Wayfarers. So I literally have, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, well, 8, 9 pairs if you count my daughter's 2 pair. I have an issue. SwanwickSleep.com. Get Fit is the code, GETFIT, to save 10% and find a pair that works for you. What are you gonna pick? Post below and let me know. Dry skin, hair falling out, sleep issues, low energy, constipation, digestive issues, even trouble swallowing, and feeling like your neck has a lot of tension. These can indicate a thyroid issue, and now more than ever, I'm seeing subclinical thyroid issues in virtually every client I work with. So what's one easy way to amp up your thyroid and improve your health overall? Natural desiccated thyroid. And no, you don't have to go to your physician to get that. You can actually get natural desiccated thyroid from Ancestral Supplements. It's a company that I love and work with. I love their beef thyroid, beef liver supplement. Did you know that you can only make the T4 to T3 conversion into that active thyroid hormone if the liver's in check? So get your thyroid and your liver in check with Ancestral Supplements beef thyroid. Click the link in the description and use my code Jodelle to save 10% on a great thyroid support that your body will love and it will thank you for in the way of getting rid of all of those symptoms I mentioned at the beginning of this.